What is up, runners? I'm doing a bit of a fun video today. I know we did the Runners of Marathon series before, and I have other series that I'm working on right now. But given that the network test or beta test, whatever you want to call it, could be any time from this weekend until launch, which is like 3 weeks away at most, I wanted to go ahead and do a bit of a ranking video of each of the shells to kind of give you an idea of what I think is going to be the most potent. And I want to talk about that with a couple of caveats, right? We're going to do solos and we're going to do teams. Now that we have a solo queue, that is an actual option that was not a thing when I originally started this series. So that changes up a bit of how characters work. So I want to give you just a list for solo players and a list for team players. In addition to that, this is going to be a straight ranking like 6th through 1st. There's not enough characters here to really do a tier list, and I think they're all relatively balanced enough that we don't need to separate them into tiers. They're all somewhat viable at least. So it's more a case of how broken are they more than are they good or not. Don't take yours being at the bottom being like they're unplayable. It's just I think the ones at the top are going to be easier to work with in that mode, but not just necessarily a end-all be-all. And finally, obviously all this stuff is subject to change. We have plenty of time for them to make tweaks to numbers, cooldowns, damage, stats. The entire game could be something totally different than we think it is coming up until the test, until launch, right? So this is just a fun, let's talk about it and discuss what we think is going to be fun and what we're going to be wanting to play. And if you are looking forward to Marathon, go ahead and subscribe down below. I'm going to be putting out a bunch of content about the game up until release and far after, hopefully. So we're going to go ahead and start with our solo list, our solo rankings. There is a couple of things that we don't know about the solo queue mode, but we do know, no duos, no trios, just solo players and just bots. We don't know the team size or the size of the lobby in general, so there is a question mark of how many people are going to be on the map. Is it going to be tied to the amount of teams that would normally be on the map, or is it a specific player number? It can change how some of these things work out, but I'm going to work under the assumption that it is consistent fight density as you would get in team fights in a trios lobby. So starting off our list with the worst solo queue player, I'm going to pick Recon. Now, Recon is a strong character. They've got wall hacks, they've got a bot that does its own damage, can track players and find them, and then you've got a couple ways to track players down from footprints and things like that. The issue is Recon doesn't have a whole passive, as interrogation does not work in solos, which is the passive where when they finish somebody, they get wall hacks on their teammates. Doesn't work when your enemy doesn't have any teammates. Footprints are useful, but not necessarily something you need in a 1v1 where you're not going to be losing track of people as much. You kind of know where the other guy is going because there's not two other people on both teams making noise and doing things to distract you. So the footprints aren't as impactful solo. In addition to this, Blackbird has no mobility. They have a subpar stat package with low self-repair and prime recovery and tactical recovery. But they have a high ping, and ping isn't very useful in solo lobbies because you can see what you can see already. Ping is more useful in teams where when you ping somebody on your screen, your teammates then get the tracking on them for the duration that whatever your stat dictates it is. Now, the drone and walls are great, but they're not really 1v1 winners as much as they are group fight winners. Recon's ult, the big pulse wall hack thing, is good for finding people, but once you have located the other person, which you can do with your bot, you don't really need to keep tabs on them because you kind of know where they are already, and if you can hear their footsteps, you can already kind of keep track of that. In a team fight, this is much more useful because it's easier to lose track of people when there's six people making their own noise and fighting things and maybe fighting bots at the same time. So in a 1v1, they don't have anything that directly puts it in their favor. Their drone is maybe the one thing that is very consistent in both game modes, but just compared to the rest of the runners and the stat package compared to other runners, I think is subpar for a solo kit. So in 5th place, moving up a step, we have our Medic. Now, Medic is also going to have a slightly dead passive. Shareware.exe, which lets you share consumables with teammates who have your drones, isn't going to function when you don't have teammates to throw your drones to. I don't know if it's going to increase the effects of your stims on yourself while you have a drone. That might be a thing, although I do doubt that it will be a thing. We do have Overcharge as his second passive, which lets you burn heat to ramp up your weapon performance. That sounds immediately more useful in a 1v1 than the Footprints of Blackbird. So just compared to that, on passives alone, I think this character is going to have a decent time and a better time in solo queue. They do have a better stat package. They do have some dead stats with a good revive and ping stat, but they do make up for it with the revive being useful solo if you have a self-revive kit. That is something that you can use on yourself. And self-repair speed is higher on this character, which means your passive regen will just be a lot more effective, which can save you some stims and other healing items, which are generally even more valuable in solo than in teams where you have somebody else you can take meds from. Now, don't forget, the med drone is capable of being attached to yourself, which will give you passive healing and shield healing over time, which is a great benefit for yourself. And your ultimate can be used defensively to down other players, and it looks like it does decent damage. I don't know, the exact numbers, we don't have that information, but if it does even up to like 70 to 100 in that range, it's going to be great for snagging kills or opening a fight if you get the drop on somebody. Fourth place, I have Thief. She is a bit of an enigma, right? We don't actually know what her stat spread is going to be. We can assume she's going to have good loot speed and movement because that's kind of what she specializes in. But that's not really great for fighting other people in solos. Now, she does have good mobility with her grapple, which is a great utility item, and we've seen that she can get at least 2 charges because she uses it back to back in a lot of the gameplay footage. That makes it so that you have a great movement option that the last 2 characters have not had, meaning you are going to be faster and safer being able to take high ground when you need to avoid a fight or to get the drop on people. So that is a great way to already enhance her kit compared to other characters. But her visor giving her wall hacks on loot can speed up your looting process and keep you moving. Not necessarily great for fighting players, but if there are people who are hard to see kind of hiding in bushes, that should allow you to catch them off guard because they won't think that you're going to be able to see them, but you can, at least I'm assuming. She should also get buffs for picking up items. That's at least how it sounded in the runner deep dive from the developers. They kind of mentioned that the more she picks up, the faster her cooldowns are going to be. So that should be a great solo opportunity to get more movement, and you're going to be picking things up anyways. It's like the main goal of the game. So she just has a nicer skill ceiling, but her skill floor is pretty low. If you don't know how to use grapple, if you're not going to get use out of the looting wall hacks, and you're not going to be maximizing your inventory capacity, then you're probably going to get less out of the character. She relies a lot more on your gun skill to win 1v1s. Now, her drone is also a significant piece of her kit. It's questionable if it's actually better in solos versus in teams, because in teams, you can be defended while you're using your drone, and using your drone to scan for enemies is less likely to get you killed because you have teammates to protect you. You, in solo mode, putting yourself into the drone, you can loot other players still, but they're going to probably see where your drone is coming from, especially if it makes noise. They'll be able to track it a lot better in solos. So it is just a lot more dangerous to even pull out and give up control of your character in a solo mode. Now, she still has opportunities. There is still a place for her to be good in solo, but I think she's going to be a bit harder to play than some of the other characters. For the third best solo runner, we're going to have Destroyer. Now, Destroyer is very offensive, very powerful, and very defensive. In a solo queue, they have the ability to break ankles with their thrusters. They have tactical sprint, which is, useful, but not my favorite thing in his kit. And he's got a barricade, which in teams is pretty easy to break when you have 3 people shooting at the shield. But one person shooting the shield can take multiple magazines to break, meaning they effectively have an immunity button or a panic button, or they can clear corners without having to take actual damage for looking there. So they have a very safe option for your utility item. In Search and Destroy, their ultimate, that is the rocket pods for hitting enemies, is not as good in solo because it typically takes about as long as it takes to kill somebody to trigger the rocket barrage. so by the time you actually get it, they'll most likely be downed already. Now, if you are fighting a player who is in the middle of fighting bots, or you stumble into two people already having a fight and you're third partying, or maybe they are healing, Search and Destroy is going to help you, but it's not going to help you in the same way that it does in team fights. Now, the Riot Barricade is great for getting out of a room that's dangerous or pushing into a room that can be dangerous. You can clear corners and clear angles without having to actually take the damage, which is great. Their stat package is very good defensively with high hardware and high firewall, as well as a decent self-repair speed. So they have less dead stats than some of the other characters. And finally, closing the distance, getting in close is a good thing to do, especially if you're running SMGs, you're running shotguns, which are probably going to be common. They seem to be the cheaper items compared to like a sniper. So this character is going to let you get in really close and then use your ankle breaking thrusters to absolutely win 1v1s. The thrusters are a bit weaker in a team fight where 3 people can team shoot you while you're doing the thruster, but in a 1v1 where somebody is going to have to track you, they have to do the 180, they have to swing around. That's going to put a lot more pressure onto that one person, which means you are much more likely to make it out alive. Second favorite to win here is going to be Vandal. I do think they have very high mobility stats, minimal dead stats in their kit. Their self-healing is not impressive, but the agility and heat capacity is pretty pivotal in just winning fights before they even occur. Having the proper positioning, this is what this character is all about. This character takes position and gets out of position very, very easily. They do have their power slide as a rotation and disengage option. Double jump messes with people's crosshair placement. And even in a 1v1, if you double jump and somebody hears you double jump and you just decide not to take the high ground, now they're going to be looking up for you, but you're down. Or if they, double fake, you can do the double jump twice. So they're looking up extra high and you're only on the first floor or something like that. There's a lot of things that you can do with double jump in a 1v1 that is way more effective than it would be in teams. So that is a very fun ability, and I think eventually we'll see people performing very well with Vandal. Her arm cannon, great in a 1v1. It does do damage, and you can charge it up to do more damage, enough to at least break a shield in one shot when fully charged. It also doesn't fully ignore cover, but it ignores cover a lot. It's a AoE based on the center of impact, so as long as you're shooting it just past cover, nobody can hide from it. So it's a great burst damage option, basically a grenade, that pushes enemies out of cover, making it a very good opener or closer to a fight, giving you a burst to open the fight and, have their shield broken before you start shooting, or to finish a fight where you've already broken their shield and they're running away to get a last second down. Finally, their Amplify boost is probably pretty good in a 1v1, giving you more stamina for more slides, more double jumps, faster speed, but it's not really as good since sliding is going to be taking you out of the fight, and in the 1v1, when you're not shooting, you are most likely getting shot. So it's not the best ultimate, especially in solo, but her kit in general and her passives are just very, very strong. Finally, my number one for solo queue is actually Assassin. Before true solo queue, I don't think it was a great pick, because Invis is always great. But when you're fighting a trio, or a team of two even, Invis can get you that first kill very quickly, very reliably, but the second and third kill become exponentially harder, especially when the cooldown is over and you're waiting for it to come back up and you're really not doing much else. Like you can throw some smokes, or you can shadow dive off a high ground, but you're not really contributing much more in a fight other than the Invis. However, with a true 1v1 solo queue, you are unlikely to get into fights back to back to back like you are in a trio lobby because you're not fighting 3 people at once. So the cooldown on your invisibility is much less impactful than it would be in trios, meaning you will probably, if you pop your invis reasonably soon before a fight, you can pre-pop and get the first shot off, which most likely means you will get the first kill in the 1v1. So it's inherently just kind of much stronger here. Shadow Dive is okay for escaping, and Assassin is exceptional at 1v1ing other assassins. Since all of them turn invisible when smoke is on the field, you using your smoke grenade ultimate, or even just regular smoke grenade, or your Shadow Dive, is strong for you, but the enemy using those same abilities is also strong for you. It's going to come down to who's better at seeing the other player while you're both invisible in most 1v1s, or if the other player is able to survive until your invis runs out. But 15 seconds is a pretty long time to knock out first shot by an assassin, so this character absolutely excels in this experience, and it makes them actually live up to their name a lot more, I think. So that is going to be it for our solo ranking. We are currently looking at having the team ranking out, hopefully tomorrow, if not the next day. But for today, I do want to know what runner you plan on using if you're playing solo. I'm very interested to see how people kind of feel these characters are doing in a solo capacity. So do let me know down below, and I will see you all again very, very soon.